Good afternoon. How are you today? Well, it's about 63, so it's pretty nice. And this is ideal. Maybe this would be a good a good template for the whole year, but it doesn't work out that way. So, I have a couple of things on my mind. One is a little story involving Rachel Maddow. She has a new podcast, and it's an 8-piece podcast, and she's finished the first 2 episodes of it, and I'm in the first one of the 8. But the story behind it is as interesting as the story she tells, with details that I was unaware of. Okay, so that's enough of a tease. It goes like this. In 1940, there was a plane that crashed not far from where I'm walking now. And on that plane, there was a U.S. Senator and members of the Justice Department. And the whole thing was considered pretty suspicious because the plane dove straight into the ground. Now, I wasn't around in 1940, but there were children who were, and one of them was Mr. Painter, a farmer of wonderful repute, a dignified gentleman, soft-spoken, stoic, personable, and he talked about what it was like that night, the driving rain, the sound of the planes, the loud sound of a crash, the dismembered bodies in a field. And I spoke to him and several other people, and he was in his 90s at the time. And he's now gone on for his reward, his eternal reward. And I did this back in 2016. I just got fascinated by it. I wrote for a weekly. They actually paid me for my articles. I always considered it a relief from the other things I do, but this story was pretty serious and pretty grave. And I made a video of it, and we played it. I call it the Lovettsville International Film Festival. It was a lot of fun. And but it was really terrific to preserve some of these interviews. So a couple of months ago, I get a call from a person working with Rachel Maddow, asking if I would discuss what happened and sit for an interview. And they'd seen my movie, and I hadn't seen my articles, and I said, yeah, sure, I'd love to do that. And so we taped it, and today it was released. And it's a fascinating story about this senator who apparently is being handled by the Nazis. I shouldn't be giving away too much. And how he got on that plane and what the forces were pulling him one way and the other. And ultra is the short form for ultra-right. So I had a chance to work with her producers, and we did the interview at my office, and I walked the hills with them where the plane crashed. So you can get it. It's a podcast, and it's called Ultra, U-L-T-R-A. And you might enjoy it. And I'm told she's going to discuss the podcast, the first and second episodes, this evening on her show, which I believe starts at 9 o'clock. And she's only got a Monday show as a result of her new contract, so that she can do other projects like this. So I thought you'd find that interesting. And I won't infringe upon you becoming aware of the story unfolding by telling you more about it. What else is going on? Oh, let's see. I am very happy that they're suspending the do-nothing police force in Uvalde that allowed children to die while they did nothing standing outside. That's a given, right? Maryland's made a decision to allow the early counting of the absentee ballots, which was opposed by the Republican who wants to be the governor, Cox. And so he lost in court. Here. I'm disappointed that the booster shots are not being used, because the fewer people who take protection, the greater the danger to those of us who are vulnerable or suppressed rather, depressed, like Holly. So that's very upsetting. There's an interesting story about the Florida search at Mar-a-Lago. Now, you may remember a lawyer named Bob. I think that's right. She's been talking to investigators because apparently the document that she signed, she didn't prepare. Corcoran, whom you've seen in court do some strange things, he apparently prepared it. So there's nothing finer than having the conspirators turn against each other for fear of being the one left holding the bag without a seat to sit down in musical chairs. So I don't know where that's going to go. It seems eternal, doesn't it? These guys can't put together a beginning, a middle, and an end. I had a very different reaction as a young prosecutor in New York. It wasn't me. It was the entire office was driven to act. And there was one case that was very difficult. They kicked around the office, I guess, for weeks. And there were complaints that something hadn't happened. And Bob Fisk, who is a very solid guy, a great lawyer, he came to me and he said, he wanted me to investigate it. He said, take a month. If you find there's nothing, say so. If you find there's something, great. If you draft the indictment, you can keep the case or give it to someone else. And I said, okay. And well, when I finished it, I thought, well, I know all of this, so I kept the case. That's the kind of office the Southern District was. And a lot of the arrests that happen, a person comes in, an agent, say, or a citizen, and they say, this crime was committed, drugs, bank robbery, whatever. And I used to sit at my desk and type on an old typewriter a complaint saying the facts and the law, and we'd run down to the magistrate. And we'd decide what bail was appropriate and what conditions, if any. And we go back and we might have another one. And guys like me lived for it. I thought it was terrific. I couldn't believe people were paying me to chase bad guys. And so I lost all sense of time. What are these prosecutors? There don't seem to be enough that have that grit, the junkyard dog phenomenon that I talked about. And then finally, for those of us who are vegetarians, but concerned about animals that are being eaten, California passed a law that said the conditions for the produce of pork, veal, and eggs mattered. So, for instance, animals are in cages. They can't move their entire life. They're fed. Sometimes their bodies collapse. Chickens are a terrible example of this. And so the industry, the meat industry, is going to the Supreme Court to say, oh, you can't do that. You know, we want to be able to abuse these animals. And I have to think, maybe it affects what you're eating. I didn't think this when I was younger and was eating meat, but and I don't know how you do that. That is, eat these animals. In our case, we have these pigs. They're all pigonalities. They're all friends of ours. They're pets, and we treat them that way. And our pigs in particular are a rescue operation. That is, we're full at the house now, but we have like 24 pigs, and we have big, medium, and small. And all the animals get along. Cats, dogs, goats, sheep, horse, steer, and cattle. That pretty much covers it. So I think the spirits from the great beyond are getting even with me for singing Old MacDonald Had a Farm as a kid to my daughter. Because now I got all these animals, and on this farm there was a goat. E-I-E-I-O. I used to also change the song. I say, on this farm there was a politician, and he lied, and he lied, and he lied. You know, and she would giggle. I don't think she knew what she was laughing at. It's just the way I was saying it. So we are here on Columbus Day, a kind of a sad day, and hopefully people meditated about it. And I'm in my cathedral of trees, and the leaves are turning. It's going to be beautiful, and I'll talk to you again perhaps tomorrow. Bye-bye.